So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session today. My name is David Cerna. I'm here from the C.A.L team. So this is part of our Microsoft 365 series, Designing Effective PowerPoints for Teaching. Now, I know many of us, we use PowerPoint almost every day. I know for me, I've probably created thousands of PowerPoints during my teaching career. So we are joined by two special guests today, Dr. Carrie Lee Riley and Dr. Robert J. Dantzler. I'll have them introduce themselves in just a bit, and they are part of IGED, or Interdisciplinary Studies and General Education here at the university. I am so honored to have them both. We have frequently worked together, especially this past summer. So before we get started, I do just want to go over our goal and also some of the Zoom controls for our session today. So really our goal is designing more effective PowerPoints for teaching and really avoiding those common mistakes when making a PowerPoint. I've always heard this is the death of PowerPoint. We will no longer use PowerPoint, but you know what? We are still using PowerPoint, and it is an effective tool when used in the right context or in the right way. So I'll go over some of my own experiences and my tips, and then Dr. Riley and Dr. Dantzler will also share theirs. So if you are using Zoom and you see that toolbar on the bottom, let's go over some of the controls very briefly. Number one, you can unmute and start your video. It's always nice to see who's on the call. To unmute, just click on that little unmute icon, and to turn on your video camera, you can also just click on that video camera option right there. If you do want to use the chat box, we will be looking at that throughout the workshop today. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to put those in the chat box right there. And last but not least, you can show us some love. If you want to give us a thumbs up or a little heart, click on that reactions button right now. Thank you very much. That shows us that you're listening, paying attention. This is something you can also encourage your students to do when you are teaching online or in HyFlex. If you would like to change the skin tone, click on those three dots after you click on the reaction button. That will open up in the lower right corner a skin tone option. So if you'd like to change your skin tone, this is a way that you can do it. Right? Excellent. So our agenda for our workshop today, number one, we will do a faculty discussion with Dr. Riley and Dr. Dantzler about their use cases, and we'll have a candid discussion about using PowerPoint and some of the issues that may occur when using PowerPoint. After that, I'll segue into a do's and don'ts, some tips and tricks I've learned over the years, and from also seeing other people's PowerPoints. And I know we don't have that much time, right? So I'll talk about maximizing time using the Office 365 PowerPoint app and also PowerPoint Designer. And something I've also learned is you can create a PowerPoint that looks really nice just from a Word document. So I'll go over how to convert a Word document to PowerPoint. Last but not least, we'll go over next steps, and we will have ample time for question and answers. So if you do have any questions or comments, feel free to put those in the chat box. So I think we're all good to go. So let's go ahead and segue into our faculty discussion. And Dr. Riley and Dr. Dantzler, if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert Dantzler, and as David said, I'm in the IGED department. I've been with UDC since 2017. I teach Discovery Diversity, and this semester I've also started to teach Capstone. In the past, I've also taught Discovery Writing, Foundation Writing 1, Ethics, and Civics. And I'm excited to be here this afternoon with everyone here.
Thank you. And Dr. Riley?
Hey, everybody. This is Carrie Lee Riley. I'm in the Interdisciplinary General Education Department. I have only been teaching at UDC since January, hired by the great Win Yarbrough. I teach Discovery Diversity and Discovery Civics. And I'm happy to be here, and I'll be the opposite of Robert. I'll be the absolute anti-technological wizard. So you'll have both ends covered.
I like that, the tech wizard and then the anti-tech wizard, but let's change that, right? But it has been a privilege and an honor to work with both Dr. Riley and Dr. Dantzler. I came into contact with them during the spring as we were preparing for that transition or working on the Real Deal program over the summer. So I did give them some of my tips and tricks on what I do for making quick and nice looking PowerPoints that are really effective to use in your lessons. So with that, let's add some context to our discussion today. This is open to all, but for Dr. Riley and Dr. Dantzler, just to get this started, if you could just briefly talk about how you use PowerPoint in your courses or for your lessons.
Okay, so I'll start off. So I use the PowerPoints to add like a visual to the to my lesson, because one thing learning, it's important to know your students' learning styles, whether they're visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and sometimes you find that they're all three all at once. So it's to provide that extra visual, especially for my students who like to try to record everything I'm saying, but they can't record everything. So that visual is there, as well as it's more engaging. Sometimes that pictures, it keeps people's attention. So it serves like multi-purposes, really for me. And then, I do make them available on Blackboard after I've finished with one, so that they can always go back and, refer to them in case there was something that they missed, or if they took down some notes and, that image or though that wording may trigger a memory or something like that, where they can just refer back to it. So it's really to again get into that visual aspect of learning, for those who are heavily visual learners.
Thank you. And Dr. Riley?
Yes, hi. I've been teaching for about 30 years, and I never used PowerPoint in a class until I got to UDC. So it was a whole new world for me to see that happen. I'm actually more of an auditory learner, so I'm not a visual person. So using PowerPoint actually teaches me to learn how to be more visual, for the visual students. And, especially in teaching discovery diversity, it's given me an opportunity to present the subject matter in a much more pluralistic and much more energetic perspective. I'm still struggling with it. It's not natural for me. And I'm working, we'll talk about some of my challenges and issues, but I especially see its impact. Especially, I give a lot of notes and a lot of information, and so it does take the stress off the students, because I can simply upload the slides to Blackboard, and so they don't feel that they have to rush and write everything down. So I find it's very helpful in terms of encouraging class participation, because they're not sitting there writing all the time. They're actually listening and interacting with one another.
And Dr. Riley, just to follow up, do you feel that having a PowerPoint for your lessons keeps you on track or keeps it structured, especially in terms of time management?
It's definitely good in terms of time management. I find I have to force myself to look at the screen because it's not natural to me. So it does keep me on point, and I think it helps me with the particular pedagogy of the day.
Yeah, and Dr. Dantzler, if you'd like to open up, what have been some challenges or issues with using PowerPoint?
Okay, so I would say the challenges or the issues that I may have had, it's not been a whole lot of challenges that I've encountered, but what the ones that I have been like, there are some students who, as Professor Riley was talking about, who like to write down every single thing. And so sometimes it may slow down the flow sometimes, whereas, I want to move forward, but at the same time, I'm trying to give them the opportunity to get everything down. And, that's when I have to reemphasize that it's going to be on Blackboard later, so that we can keep moving. They could ask questions. So like that has really been my biggest challenge with using PowerPoint, because I kind of find it pretty cool to use or very easy to use. And so that has really been my biggest challenge while teaching.
Yeah, and I do like that you do offer the deck, right? You can upload that
Yes.
deck or the PowerPoint slides directly to Blackboard as well, either as a PowerPoint or as a PDF. but having that resource available for the students, that just helps them even
Yes,
more for your lessons.
yes, and I do make mine PDF, and
Mhm.
so that it's less space and such like that, and then just so that, and also so no one will be tempted to change what I put
Mhm.
up. So yeah, I always put them in PDF.
Good points. And
Mhm.
Dr. Riley, any
Mhm.
challenges or issues for you with using PowerPoint?
Yeah, there's a number of challenges. I say, well, first of all, as I said, I'm auditory. I'm a strong oral learner. I learn by sounds other than sights. So it kind of forces me to try to think how someone who learns visually works. So I have to work hard on creating a visual palette. And it is not natural to me. I have to work hard at it. I think another challenge. I mean, I always, my vanity inscribes the fact that I must outdo myself every time. So when I come up with something for the day, I want to try to make sure it's better for the next day. So sometimes I'll get caught up in trying to out creativize myself at times. Um, I think sometimes I think a challenge is with the students
Mhm.
because I sometimes will I won't turn the PowerPoint off, but I'll have them turn away from it to look at something else. And so that's a challenge for them because so many of them are used to just learning solely by PowerPoint. So I've learned actually to incorporate whiteboard, or in some cases, the old-fashioned chalkboard in my teaching as well, because it kind of keeps them off their guard, so to speak. And probably the other challenges is a lot of students who are better at PowerPoint than I am, so they have all sorts of criticisms.
Mm.
But
So you can
I
use that to work or to make something better, right?
no, I use that to threaten them.
Okay, so to threaten them. So what do you mean by that? Kidding.
Just kind of to have them understand that I'm in control, but that I can learn from them also.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I do like that. And think about when you have your students present, right? They can make their own PowerPoints or their own presentations, and that's a really nice way that you can learn from each other. So whenever I attend webinars or I go to a classroom, I kind of look at how the professor or the faculty member is using PowerPoint to deliver their message. And if there are really good cases or use cases for that, I'll take notes and I'll use it myself, right? So I think with that teaching community, you learn from one another. So this is a good segue into showcasing some of your own PowerPoint examples. So Dr. Dantzler, if you don't mind, you can go ahead and share one of your PowerPoints that you used for class and just kind of walk us through the design choices and the structure of your PowerPoint. And thank you again for everyone coming on this call. If you do have any questions or comments, feel free to put those in the chat box or unmute. Okay, Dr. Dantzler.
Okay, so can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so this is something I use with one of the units we speak about in my diversity class called Shades of Truth. And where we talk about these different types of lies. And so like I put here is like some different shades of some different colors. I pretty much just found an image from the internet, and I put my headings in, everything like that. And so just to kind of go through a little bit, just like, so with this particular unit, I had students divided into different groups where they actually spoke about, or they talked about each section, each one of these different shades of truth or these different types of lies, and they put it into their own words, showing that their own understanding, and then they came up with some examples that were not in the course reading. And so got into some questions, and this has like been one of our themes, do we know our minds, as we're talking about diversity. And so just kind of flipping through, like, so the content, and with this content that I have here is just kind of like some fillers if there was anything that they missed, kind of like a tag on or an echo even for something that they may have shared, and also with some different examples of these different things. So when we talk about the design, so pretty much what I would do is I typed in my content, as you see here, and then what I would do is I would drag an image that I have saved onto it. And so I'm going to do a quick example of what that kind of looks like. So like, say for instance, I'm just going to insert a random slide, and let me see, get a new slide. And then say like, if I chose this, and I'm just going to type something random like, oh, happy day. And then if I want a particular image, so I would go to my my flash drive or wherever I have my photos saved. I drag here, and then so the information comes up or whatever, and then you'll see on the right side how the design ideas come up. And so pretty much what I do is I just kind of pick which one I want, or slide through. And this is what I use, because before I would use the actual options like to go through something, but I kind of like customizing each one of my slides. And so I just go through, pick whichever one I want. If there's nothing here, I just scroll down. Usually it says more options. Oh, well, it didn't do it that time. But yeah, but that's kind of like how I pick my designs. I just go through, pick whichever one I like, and go forward. You can do it in a background. Always try to make sure that I have a good background and text contrast, so it's not, it doesn't look too close. And also thinking about the people who sit in the back of the room, because everyone has their different visions. So like this, for instance, has been one of my tougher slides, because it's kind of like I can't get that perfect color contrast between the text and the background. And then some other things I try to do is I try to throw in some things that they kind of can relate to, like we were talking about who's lying. So like this is an image of Candy Burris from the TV show Real Wives of Atlanta, and there's a meme she's yelling about lies. About lies and stuff like that. As we also were talking about lies, I threw in something in another slide about Pinocchio. When does lying start? The dangers if we don't change. And again, asking, why is this important to our course and things like that. So again, I try to throw in the images that they can relate to, meeting them where they are, social media things. I'm a pretty avid social media user, and so and it also makes that connection where because I constantly have to remind myself that I'm a couple generations older than my students, or at least one. And so a lot of times they don't know what I'm talking about. And so, yeah, when I do these things, it kind of makes that connection and such like that.
Yeah, I love this, Dr. Dantzler. Thanks so much for sharing it. I like that your visuals are very intentional here, and they add a lot of value to the content that you're talking about. So very nice work.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Riley, if you'd like to share one of your PowerPoints and kind of walk us through your choices there. And as Dr. Riley pulls that up, are there any questions we can answer so far, or comments?
Oh, nice.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Riley, go ahead.
Are you able to see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, I teach discovery diversity, like Robert Dantzler. And so, this was one of the more colorful programs that I had that I could find that indicated diversity. So it's kind of silly, but I've actually found out that the title slide sometimes gets more interest than anything else. And so when I'm more colorful on the title slide, they kind of stay with me. If I'm more boring on the title slide, they kind of go after. So I do put the agenda on usually on a separate page. Sometimes I add icons, sometimes I don't, but I always make sure that the agenda for the day is listed there. This particular class was for the summer Real Deal program, where we worked with recently graduated high school students. And so in this particular class, what we were trying to do was to find out what they had gotten from the program. So what I did is I put the 3 questions on here. And of course, everything being this diversity class, everything is of color. So you'll see I have the pencils of color. So as much as I can, I have something of color since it's diversity. Let's see. Oh, I started going into some lecturing here in terms of stratification assumptions, identity change stages, and action plans. And for this one, I tried to use the slides that allowed the 3 columns next to one another. So I sometimes find that that can be helpful to sort of change up the pattern. So I decided in this case to use the 3 column settings. And then when I did the 4 skills of cultural diversity competence, I also used the 4 different bullet points there. I did the same thing for understanding the 6 barriers. When we got to discrimination, I listed the different types of discrimination. And, you know, after I had gone through this, I saw there were so many different things that I should have done. But I definitely, if I were to change this and make it stronger, I would definitely use a lot more animation. And that's something that is on my list to learn. How to use as much animation as possible because I want more activity than what you see. So I go down and I did different comparisons and columns and so forth, and finally ending with the critical thinking concepts. So what my goal in the diversity class is to use as much color and diversity as possible to sort of have it pop off the screen. And then to use as many different, I'm not as good as Robert as pulling together these different icons as he is, but I'm working on it. But I just learned that each day I work and try something different and try to keep it flowing.
And you know what? Honestly, I love it. I like these bursts of color. I was reading an article how we're kind of losing color in society. So for example, if you think about McDonald's, Burger King, Pizza Hut, if you look at how they were, especially when I was younger, to now, they're all very like gray now, just boxy. It lost that
interesting.
color. So I love those pops of color in your presentation. Thank you, Dr. Riley.
Thank you.
So Dr. Riley and Dr. Dantzler will be on the call. I'll go ahead and segue into my presentation on some of the tips, but if you do have any questions for either of them or both of them, please go ahead and put those in the chat box and we'll get to those at the end. So thank you so much, both of you, for providing context for our webinar today, but also showcasing some examples from your own courses. And what I love is, if you think about it this way, I know the first time you make a PowerPoint, it does take time, it takes an investment, but you have it saved and it's really easy to modify thereafter. So for example, these webinar PowerPoints that we do so often for C.A.L, I'm able to save them on the system in the cloud, and then I can just go ahead and enhance it, use that same template over and over again. So it really saves me a lot of time right there. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, and let's have some fun now, is really death by PowerPoint. So PowerPoint is a frequently used tool, but a lot of people use it in the wrong way, right? So PowerPoint, we don't want it to be this, here's another PowerPoint, this is so boring, I can't wait for this to be over. But we actually want this to be a really fun and engaging experience between you and your audience, or you and your students. Right? So I do want to show this little comedy clip. It's a little old, but it is quite funny. So I'll show you about 2 minutes of this. It's also a nice way when you are presenting to have a little break. So for example, when I'm talking on and on, if I want to just have a natural break, I can go ahead and put a video. So let's see this video, Life After Death by PowerPoint. Let's watch.
There's some things I hate about PowerPoint, and I figure it's kind of my duty to point them out. So here we go. Here's common PowerPoint mistakes. Number 1, people tend to put every word they are going to say on their PowerPoint slides. Although this eliminates the need to memorize your talk, ultimately this makes your slides crowded, wordy, and boring. You will lose your audience's attention before you even reach the bottom of your first slide. Please don't do that anymore, please. Number 2, most common. Many people do not run spell check. Big mistake. Nothing makes you look stupider than spelling errors. If it's got a red line under it, recheck the spelling. And then finally, I hate this. Avoid excessive bullet pointing, only bullet key points. Too many bullet points, and your key messages will not stand out. In fact, the term bullet point comes from people firing guns at annoying presenters. Hence the bullet point. Bad color schemes, not good. Clashing background and font colors can lead to distraction, confusion, headache, nausea, vomiting, and loss of bladder control. I can't stay on that one too long. Here's something I've noticed. The number of PowerPoint slides you have in your talk, the less useful your talk actually is. Unfortunately, my presentation is right there. I've also noticed this. People love to pack data into their presentations. They shove more and more data thinking it's better, but it's not. The more data you have, the harder it is to read your slide, and the effectiveness plummets. Now you can improve the effectiveness by adding some shading and some 3D effects and then some second order and third order effects, and then, I know, let's add some labels. That'll help a lot. And that's pretty much every marketing slide I've ever seen right there. Yeah. Then some like VP of marketing standing there going, it's real clear in Q4. What the hell are you talking about? Now, I'm into in animation. People become animators in PowerPoint. You can have things flying all over the place, and that can be good. If you're a visual learner, that will improve the effectiveness of your performance. But if you're easily distracted, more animations, and people have no idea what you're talking about. They're just, wow, that is cool, wow. And there's regions here, by the way. There's the simple but effective region. There's the active but confusing, the effective but boring, the active but ineffective, the dull but static region, the busy but useless, the ADD only region, the useful but amusing, the stupid but confusing, the dull triangle, the hyper triangle, the sleepy square, the dizzying pentagon, and everything else I just call pointless motion. That slide right there took me an hour and a half to make, right there. PowerPoint can just suck the life out of you. It's amazing. I've also come up with this. It's a kind of a little science I've invented called font analysis. Basically, the font you choose says something about who you are as a person. There's a huge list of fonts, and you choose one, and that says something about you. So be careful the font you choose. For example, if you choose Kerry or New, it happens to be my favorite, you're probably organized and structured. If you choose Matisse, it means you're artistic. And if you choose Times New Roman, it means you're lazy, apathetic, and unimaginative, and you always use the default. Oh.
Okay, so welcome back. I hope that was, I actually showed the whole video. It was quite funny. So this is one of the best uses of comedy to talk about some of the issues with PowerPoint. I'm sure in that clip you saw some examples that you're familiar with. Either you make it or someone else has made it during a presentation. So this is also a great clip to show with your students. I'll put the link in the chat box right now. So let me go ahead and share that link. And that is called Death by PowerPoint, right? So let's go over some examples of what not to do based on this demonstration, but also just from my own use cases as well, right? If you have seen some of my PowerPoints like from years ago when I first started teaching, oof. Okay, so let's look at this one, Chilean exports. What's wrong with this PowerPoint slide? Feel free to go ahead, put this in the chat box or just unmute. Or is it perfect?
Too much text.
Too much text. And Pat, is the text big or small?
Very small.
Very small, right? This looks like a picture from a textbook, right? So not visually appealing, too much information on the screen that's overwhelming. And what would happen as the audience member if I just read this whole thing? Fresh fruit leads Chile's export mix. Chile emerges as major supplier of fresh fruit to world market. It gets quite boring, right? So this is something we don't want to happen. Remember, the focus is always on you as the presenter. A PowerPoint is just a tool to help increase the effectiveness of your message. But if you are overcrowding your message here, visually unappealing, it just becomes too much to look at, right? So too much text and font too small. Don't put large blocks of text in your presentation. I try to avoid this as much as possible. I know it's not always something we can avoid, but try your best and emphasize the main points. So I like to call these talking points. Whenever I have a presentation, I like to make some quick bullet points of talking points that I'll go ahead and go over. This is also known as the 6x6 rule, meaning try not to have more than 6 bullet points per slide. And for each bullet point, try to have it 6 words or less. So this is the ideal goal. I know it's not always something that can happen, but if I do have a large piece of information, I'll try to condense that. So then you're paying more attention to what I'm saying, and the visual on the screen just helps with that structure here. Use pictures. PowerPoint is multimedia. Pictures are always great. When I used to teach a lot of ESL, I would use a lot of visual pictures because it helped get my point across more than just text. And also choose a large font. I also tend to make my font bold, just like on this screen. So it's really easy and clear to read. I also like these fonts like Roboto. That's my favorite font to use. It's that one in black, really clear, really simple, and I can go ahead and bold it right there. Okay, let's look at another one. What's wrong with this slide? Or is it perfect? And this is not my motorcycle, by the way, but I'd love a motorcycle just like this.
It's the color.
What's wrong with the color, Dominique?
It is one, inaccessible.
Mhm.
And two, it is very distracting and contrasting. It hurts my eyes looking at it.
It hurts your eyes, right? So anything that's like a highlighter color, those really bright colors, I really try to avoid those in a presentation, especially for a background. So this bright green background with this yellow font, it's not going to work, right? So I really try to avoid using colors like this. Neutral colors really work well for me, but I do like Dr. Riley's presentation as well that uses those spots of color to really emphasize those points too. So as we go through this, think about the color choices that you make. Avoid loud, garish colors. Dark text on light background really works best. If you do need to use lighter text, you can use a darker background, like a black background, maybe with yellow or a white font. Avoid text colors that fade into the background, i.e. blue and black. If you do have a dark background, you can go ahead and put your text in a text box that contrasts with that dark background. So let's say I have a really gray, black and white background. I can go ahead and put my title or my text maybe in a white box. So it's really easy to see that contrast. Avoid those colorblind combinations or colors like red and green, unless it's Christmas or the holidays, blue and yellow, things like that. Think about that color wheel, think about the complementary colors, but also think about colors that are pretty neutral. I used to use a lot of red for my titles on my PowerPoints, but I learned that's really inaccessible. So sticking to a blue color or a neutral color really works best here, right? And let's look at another example. So buying a new suit, what's wrong with this one? Or is it perfect? Hopefully no one's making a slide like this, right?
There's too much going on.
Too much going on, right? So where do you look at, right? And what is the information I want to highlight here? Are they the suits or the wow or the flames or the little eyes, right? There's too much going on. So I know a lot of people use a lot of animations or sound effects. I used to use a lot of those when I first started teaching, but I rarely use them now. I really use simple effects, simple animations, and also simple transitions, right? So use pictures, but don't let them use you, right? And keep slides simple. Too much diverts audience away from the content that you're you're presenting. So when I do use GIFs or movable images, I try to just stick to 1 per slide, not 50 or 5 on a slide, and really limit those animations and effects and also those sound effects. Just really good things to keep in mind. So to avoid death by PowerPoint, do not use the media to hide you, right? So what I mean by that, I'm just putting something on the screen. I don't really know what I'm talking about, and I'm kind of using that as a cover, right? The media is there to help you, not to hide you. The audience really came to see you, right? You're front and center on the camera. You're presenting your work, your PowerPoint. You're really adding a lot of depth and value to your presentation. The media should really enhance the presentation. So just like that video clip I showed you of the comedian, hopefully that enhanced our presentation, and it was a good natural segue into this part of the presentation. And do not just read off the slides, really add value here. So when I am reading these bullet points, I'm also adding some value of my own and some other examples, so you're still paying attention to me, hopefully. Right? So death by PowerPoint is really something that we want to avoid. I know we do have to make lots of PowerPoints, especially when we're teaching, but really use these as guidelines to really enhance your presentations, right? Are there any questions or comments that I can answer? Yeah, I see. If you're going to say it, do you really need to repeat it in print? That's a good point. Thank you, Dr. Carson. We should just stick with blue and black since colors can trigger issues with people's thoughts. Yep. Dr. Pearsall, Al?
My concern is I was informed by some faculty that when you start using colors like red and yellow, it can trigger things in people. And I was even going to mention that to you about VR, VR use.
Yep.
Because I'm interested in that application as well. And so my concern is I love PowerPoint, but what happens when you get those unintended effects because you want to make it jazzy, you choose these colors, and all of a sudden you have a student that has issues. Remember, one student that has an issue, it ruins your entire PowerPoint. So I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a great topic of discussion that I want to open up to the whole group here, right? What are some ways that we can ensure that our PowerPoints are accessible for all and they're not triggering for some of our students? And this is open to everyone here. And I can start, yeah, if no one wants to jump in. I really think that a simple PowerPoint that's really clear, effective visually, and you're using visuals intentionally here, that's what really matters. I really try to design my PowerPoints now with as little text as possible. And the text that is on the screen is just like a bullet point or a talking point where they're really paying attention to me. Even this slide, some things I could change on here. I could change the not from red, maybe I can make it all capitals, right? And that could be a way that I can change the visual here, or I can add an image to the right or the left that kind of adds more context to this PowerPoint, right? Oh, Julian, go ahead.
David, I share your point. Just including those intentional images, and even for my PowerPoints, I do normally stick to that white and black backgrounds, just because it allows for a lot clearer read for the students. I know we want to jazz it up with those colors just because we want it to stand out. We want certain things to be a little bit more vibrant and engaging. But when you're thinking of these engaging components, I think the images can truly be what engage your students. Those infographics that you are using, the GIFs that you're using, I think some of those will lend themselves to more engagement, even little comedic memes, including into your course, some things like I've seen Dr. Riley do. I think those are a way to engage your students without necessarily using colors that may trigger students or have bad effects for your PowerPoint.
Excellent. Dr. Dantzler, anything to add?
No, nothing to add to that point. Sorry.
Yeah, but I like your use of memes and GIFs as well to kind of relate to your audience, relate to your students. That's a really good point here. All right.
Yeah.
John, go ahead. Thank you, John.
Yeah, I also think to the color of the text, it's also good to use some, colors which seem, professional. And you also don't want to have that prejudice if, your colors are, shouting and same message can be passed, maybe if maybe it's through an image. I think using a standard color like black or blue, I think that's also more professional to, PowerPoints, passing across the message. And maybe if maybe you want to put an emphasis on maybe another maybe message, I think substitute of maybe like infographics and images, the way Julian has said, would work better than red colors or very bright text colors.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Dantzler.
Yeah, so I was having some tech issues, but I got back into the Zoom. I'm not sure if anyone said it, but and I do apologize if it was said, even as we're talking about colors, also making sure that your fonts are always readable, because there are a lot of, the nice, cute fonts or whatever, but they're not always legible for everyone. And like I mentioned before, I'm always concerned about the person all the way in the back, making sure that person can see clearly, making sure it's like they're large enough, and the color and everything like that. Because I've even had moments where I actually had to, with something look nice on my computer while planning it, but I've had to, in the middle of a presentation, change because someone's eyesight wasn't receiving what was on the screen. So yeah.
Yeah, really good talking points or really good points brought up here. Some other things for me, if you were to see some of my old PowerPoints, terrible, right? I thought they were great. I used all these animations, different fonts, musical effects, things like that. No, it's too much going on, and it became a distraction. And these were for my middle school students, right? So that really hindered my teaching effectiveness with them. So I always believe, especially doing so many PowerPoints these days, simplicity is key here, right? Everything is intentional. Any kind of bullet points that I'm putting on the screen or any kind of images. I also like to keep it on theme. So if I'm using that theme, I use it throughout, right? So for this one, for example, blue titles, black text for bullet points, and that kind of background that's not distracting, but it does add that little design element or flair to your presentation. But really, simplicity goes a long way, especially with PowerPoints, right? It doesn't have to be overly complicated or complex. It's really about the images and text that you're putting on the screen, right? So I do want to do a walkthrough of Office 365 and using the PowerPoint Designer. If you haven't used this yet, it can save you so much time, but it can also create really effective and professional looking PowerPoints. And something that's also saved me so much time is if you have a Word document, you can convert that easily to a really nice PowerPoint in under a minute, right? So I really couldn't believe it myself, but I've been using it more frequently these days. It is awesome. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen of my Office 365. And I'll walk you through on some of the functions here, right? So for Office 365, if you don't know how to access this, I'll go ahead and walk you through. So I can go to My UDC, and I'll go ahead and log in. So on My UDC, if you go to Quick Launch on the left, and then you'll see a button that says Show More or Load More right here. And I'll go to the Office 365 dashboard, which is this icon right here. Once I click on that, that'll take me to my Microsoft Office screen right here, right? I do recommend you can bookmark this. You can also go to office.com, log in with your UDC credentials, and it'll take you straight here. Now, if I go to PowerPoint on the left, and let's make a new blank presentation right here, right? Now they do have some ready-made themes, but let me show you the designer function. Now, just to preface this, you can go ahead and do this the online way with Office 365, or you can use the PowerPoint app. But I do like to use it online. It's really easy to collaborate, to share. Also, I find that the designer functions offer more, but you can do the same with the app version on your computer. Now, here's an example. I have this blank title slide right here that's already set up for me. You'll see on the right side, the designer functions are also preloading. And based on the text or the topic that I put, it will also find those really good images from the Microsoft library and it put them directly. So here's an example. So I was listening to a podcast earlier about suburban sprawl. Let me go ahead and put that on the screen. And then just give it a second or two, and on the right side, you'll see it'll populate with some of those images and some themes that I can use. Now I like this second one. Let me go ahead and click on that. Now you see right away, it has that title right there. It also has that image of suburban sprawl. This looks like where I grew up, actually. So right here, look at how quick that was. Now, if I go to new slide right there, it'll automatically start auto-populating this with the same theme type of slides. Now, let me make another point. I'll put lack of green spaces, and let's see what the designer pops up on the right. I'll go ahead and do that. Okay, of course, now that I'm doing this live, it's not working. So lack of green space. And let me make a new slide here. Car centric. So it's not auto-populating, of course not now, but this should work. This always happens, right? With technology when I want to show something. But as you can see here, let me make a new presentation. And I'll just do the same suburban sprawl, but I'll choose a different topic. Okay, so the designer is on the right. I'll use this one right here. And then I'll also do new slide. And let me do lack of green space. And let's see what pops up. Okay, so let's look at this picture. Okay, so two things I did right here. Number one, it didn't work correctly the first time when I was trying to present, so I just did another one. So I opened up a new presentation, and as you can see, it adds that title slide right here. I can also change it on the right. And if I don't like any of these choices, I can also see more design ideas. This is all with the online version of the app. Let me put this one. Also, it will change the other slides to fit the same theme. I can also do a new slide, let's say, too much traffic. And then let's see what auto-populates on the right there. So within a few seconds, I've been able to make a thematically connected PowerPoint presentation with really high quality images using the Microsoft library. And all I had to do was I had to type that in, and it went and find that with the AI system. So this really, really works well, and I use it all the time. Some other things here that I wanted to highlight: when I do make a new slide, you'll see right here that I can add a table, I can add a smart chart, icons, and some photos here. So let me go over those. So if I go to Insert, and then Pictures, and click on this little drop-down arrow, you can insert pictures from your device, from OneDrive, from stock images, and also from Bing Pictures. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't know about. Microsoft, and especially with our UDC license, there are really high quality images that you can use. So let me go ahead and go to stock images right here. And you should be able to see this on your screen. Okay, let me go ahead and reshare this. Okay, and let me go ahead and search for neighborhood. And I'll go ahead and put this picture right here, and I'll insert it. So you can see this really high quality image I just found from the Microsoft library, stock images. Really high quality, I'm able to go ahead and make it bigger. And then on the right with designer, I can also add a title, right? So let me go ahead and put neighborhoods. Okay. And I'll go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. Move it right up here. So within a few seconds, I was able to find a really high quality image from Microsoft PowerPoint that I just inserted into my PowerPoint right here. Any questions so far about this? But a really nice way, right, to make a high quality PowerPoint very quickly. So again, this is already set in your designer mode when using the PowerPoint app right here. This can save you a lot of time. It's also something that you can show to your students if they are doing a presentation. Let's say I'm doing something about history. I can go ahead and type that in, and then it'll find something that's related to that topic on the right. There you go. So really nice way to make those transition slides as well. Right. Something else I wanted to highlight here that's a good feature for Microsoft PowerPoint Online is there's this presentation mode option. And if I click on the down arrow, it says Rehearse with Coach. So if you have an important presentation that you'd like to give really effectively and really well, this is a really good option here. And I highly recommend this for your students and also for yourselves. So if I click on Rehearse with Coach, it'll open up this coach option, which will really listen to me as I present and give me some tips on how to improve. So for example, if I'm using a lot of filler words like like, it'll tell me when I'm using those and also tell me how to stop using those so frequently. It'll also go over some points that you're making and really kind of analyze your voice and the clarity of your voice as well. This is a really cool feature. Again, that's the Microsoft PowerPoint Coach option right here. Okay, and last but not least, something cool that I wanted to show you is changing a Word document to a really nice looking PowerPoint in under a minute. I couldn't believe it myself when I started, but it works really well. So here I have a Microsoft Word document that I opened up in Microsoft Office Online. This is HighFlex FAQ or HighFlex General Questions. Now you can see here, it's formatted really clearly, so that's a big key here to make a good PowerPoint, but I have a clearly formatted list of questions and answers that I want to convert to a PowerPoint. So how I do that, remember this is with the online version. If I go to File and Export here on the left, you'll see that little Export button, click on that. And then it says Export to PowerPoint Presentation. Let's click on that. So what this does, based on the AI, it will find related images and a theme based on your topic. So this is a Word document that I have here. Let me go ahead and find something that I think looks nice. Kind of like this one. So I'll go ahead and click on that and then export. So right now it's preparing slides in under a minute. Let's see what PowerPoint this produces for me. This is kind of my big secret, right? And I'm letting you all in on this big secret, right? Okay, so there you go, right? I have this Word document and now it's created this really nice looking PowerPoint. It even adds icons that are relating to the messages here. It's not perfect, so just make sure that you are kind of editing this as well. But this is a really easy way if you have a document or if you prefer to structure your presentation on a Word document, do those clear headings and bullet points, then it'll convert that to a PowerPoint here. And of course, you can see, can students choose when to come in person? On the right, it also shows up the designer options. I can go ahead and click on that, and that'll go ahead and change the PowerPoint as well. So you can still customize it, but look how much time this will save when you have that Word document that you want to change to a PowerPoint, right? So really, really cool and really nice, right? Dr. Sandra Shanstrong, let me go ahead and look that up for you. She has a question, are factual information databases also available through Office 365? I will follow up with you on that and check that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I did see a question earlier about embedding videos. I'll quickly go over that. So if I go here and I want to embed a video, I'll go to Insert, and you'll see right here, there's an online video option, but you can also insert your own video from your computer. But I do recommend find a video that's on YouTube or that's hosted online, and you can add that video directly. So for example, I'll go to YouTube and I'll find that clip. And let me go ahead, here's the one that I just watched. I'll go ahead and copy the link. And let me go ahead and insert it into my PowerPoint. Online video, copy and paste. YouTube is great for this. I can also make it bigger or smaller. And there you go. So it's a really easy way to insert a video. Yes. Yeah, and I will email I'll put the presentation slide deck with this video recording on YouTube, right? Okay, so before we run out of time, I do want to just have a quick discussion and a reflection on some of your takeaways from our session today. And what are your perspectives now on using PowerPoint? I'll open this up first to Dr. Dantzler and Dr. Riley. Any takeaways from today or any new tips that you learned that you'll start using?
I think one of the bigger tips, even though we have shown this before, but again, the if I wanted to use a Microsoft Word document, translating that to, because quick, easy, say if you don't have time, because I was pretty much a copy paste person, but hey, sometimes you may not have time to do all that, even though that's kind of quick, but you may not have time. So that one is like the biggest takeaway, and yeah.
Yeah, this is something that I've used when I just have a Word document and I have, say, an online kind of meeting with my team, but I don't want to just present it on the screen as a Word document. So I can just quickly convert it to a PowerPoint. Just makes it a little bit more visually stimulating and interesting when I'm sharing that online or in class, right? Thank you, Dr. Dantzler. Any other takeaways from today from the group? Or any questions I can answer? Hopefully you learned something new today, right? And you can also save some time. Yeah, go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, definitely the tip on converting your Word doc to a PowerPoint, definitely helpful. And that's something that I'll definitely be using going forward. So thank you for that, David.
Thank you, Pat.
I wanted to add PowerPoint Designer. I think that's amazing. So I'm going to start using that as well.
Yeah, and tell your students as well, because it really has improved. When I first started using PowerPoint Designer, it was quite basic, but based on suggestions from different people, and also just over time, it's gotten a lot better and a lot more accurate. So you saw when I was typing up suburban sprawl or lack of green space, it found a relevant image really quickly, just like that.
Yeah, that was really neat. And I'll share with graduate students as well. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think the entire presentation has been exceptional. And so,
thank you.
So I'm going to be using all of the information. Thank you.
Yes, and I will put this online on our YouTube channel, but feel free to share this with your students. Also, I will put my email on the screen here. One of the things I'm working on currently is a kind of design and presentation series. If you're interested in me working with your students on that, I would love to. So you can send me an email, david.cerna@udc.edu. I have made so many PowerPoints over my career. I do like PowerPoint, honestly, and it really keeps me focused and structured when I am presenting. It's just the way that you're using it intentionally. So always keep that in mind, because if I just put my whole script on the screen, no images, no visuals, green background with yellow font, you wouldn't have gotten anything out of this presentation. So I hope that really helped you today. Please feel free to send me an email. This will be put on our YouTube channel. And with that, are there any final comments or questions? But I do want to thank Dr. Riley and Dr. Dantzler for also coming here on the call. I really appreciate it. It added a lot of context to this lesson, and I look forward to working with you even more, right? So thank you again, everyone. I hope you have a great day, and I hope that I can get in contact with you very soon. I would love to work with you and your students. I like designing and like working on PowerPoints, and I will see you very soon. Bye-bye.